DFA officials, members of the Diplomatic Corps, FSI colleagues, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are truly delighted to have you with us today. This morning, we welcome you to the 14th Ambassadors Lecture Series, a platform for heads of diplomatic missions in Manila to share their knowledge, experiences, and advocacies. This event aims to foster stronger understanding and collaboration, guiding us towards deeper insights, actions, and shared goals of cooperation, economic development, and peace. My name is 𝐌𝐚𝐫𝐢𝐞, and I will be your MC for today's event. To officially begin the program, please allow me to introduce our guest lecturer for this morning. Our speaker for today is the Ambassador of the Republic of France to the Philippines. Her Excellency Marie Fontenelle-Lassalle is the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the French Republic to the Republic of the Philippines. She has also been designated as non-resident ambassador to Palau, the Federated States of Micronesia, and the Marshall Islands. She arrived in Manila on the 10th of August 2023. Former student of the École Nationale d'Administration with a master's degree in public law and a master's degree in international and European law, Ambassador Fontenelle served as Inspector General of Social Affairs. Former advisor to French President Mr. Emmanuel Macron on solidarity, health, and gender equality from 2017 to 2020, she then served as ambassador and permanent representative of France to the Council of Europe from 2020 to 2023 in Strasbourg. She has over 20 years of experience in the French public administration and has expertise in public and European and social and health policies. To share with us this morning her insights on Blue Nations, France and the Philippines, Partners for the Oceans, the reinforcement of bilateral cooperation, please join me in welcoming the Ambassador of France to the Philippines, Her Excellency Marie Fontenelle.
Push the button, sorry. Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Bonjour. I'm delighted to be invited to speak in front of you, such an important audience. Thank you so much, Francisco, to have me for this 14th lecture. It's really timely, I have to say, because yesterday we celebrated the 78 years of our official diplomatic relations. The Treaty of Amity between our two countries was signed, indeed, June 26, 1947. So perfect timing, right, to be here to talk about our bilateral relationship and starting with this Blue Nations initiative. But let me say that in 78 years of diplomatic relations, of course, we have a long-standing history of cooperation. But it's true that lately, over the past couple of years, there has been a political will to do more. And both our President Macron and President Marcos, have really decided to put our partnership on a more strategic and political level, and that's what is my mandate about, to try to contribute to the reinforcement of our bilateral relationship. To do that, we started thinking, what do we have in common together, France and the Philippines? Of course, so many things. And of course, we have the passion for food, we have the passion for culture, the passion for oceans. Oceans came quite as obvious in our minds. And since we have this history of being strong advocates for the climate, we thought we should continue to use that path. And since we had in France the opportunity to organize a United Nations conference on oceans, which just took place a few weeks ago in Nice, in the south of France, we thought it would be the perfect opportunity to kind of strengthen what we were already doing a lot together, France and the Philippines, with this blue component of our cooperation being Blue Nations. So why are we Blue Nations? It goes maybe without saying, but let me recall that indeed the Philippines and France are two maritime nations. We are also together part of the Pacific family. If you have maybe in mind the map our global map, the world map, you would see immediately what we share with the Philippines. We are also an archipelago. It seems maybe a little bit weird if you think as France in Europe, but when you look at the map, and you have all our territories, overseas territories, Caribbean, Indian Ocean, South Pacific, New Caledonia, and French Polynesia, then you see that indeed at the global level, France is also an archipelago. So we have definitely to learn a lot from you, the Philippines being the most important archipelago all over the world. And it's true that it means that our geography, together with the Philippines, France and the Philippines, our geography orients us spontaneously towards the oceans. We are experiencing daily the challenges of the protection of the oceans, the challenges of freedom of navigation, and we are also benefiting every day from the oceans and what it can offer us as, for example, blue economy is concerned. So it was quite obvious that we could do more in terms of cooperation on the way to the United Nations Conference on Ocean in Nice. Plus, we have something else very important also in common, which is our belief, our faith into multilateralism, into international law. And the United Conference on Oceans was, of course, dedicated to increase the international mobilization of governments, but also the private sector, the civil society, scientists, for the protection of oceans, and to also kind of contribute to increasing the protection of the oceans by international law. That's why we launched last year, it's been already a year, this Blue Nations Initiative, France and the Philippine Partners for the Oceans, to intensify what we were already doing together in terms of maritime security, in terms of protection of biodiversity, in terms of blue economy, and to add an advocacy component. We celebrated on the way to Nice a very important milestone of our bilateral relationship, which was the 10th anniversary of the Manila Call to Action on Climate Change. 10 years ago, February 26, also marked a very important milestone in our cooperation, in our bilateral relation. It was the first time a French president of the Republic came to the Philippines. François Hollande was here 10 years ago for this very first visit. And together with your president, with President 𝐷𝒂𝒕𝒊𝒐𝒏 III, they launched this Manila Call to Action on climate change that led, in the end, to the success of the Paris Agreement during COP21. It is a very important milestone for all of us, for all our countries to be now bound to respect the Paris Agreement. 10 years after, we were there in Manila celebrating the Manila Call to Action and calling again to all heads of states, all members of civil society, all governments, and also CEOs of private companies to gather in Nice and make the success of this conference. It just took place, I was saying, June 9th to June 13. You had an impressive delegation of more than 28, I guess, people in Nice, helping this movement of mobilization for the protection of the oceans. We think, of course, it's self-declaration, but we think it was a huge success. This conference was a huge success for the oceans. Many aspects, I could not give too much details, but many aspects showed that there was a momentum to do more in terms of science, in terms of financing, in terms also of international law. There is probably, you know, and if you don't, let me say, there is an important treaty coming up in the pipeline of UN treaties, the BBNJ Treaty, Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction. This treaty was signed in 2023. You played, by the way, like France, a very instrumental role in making this treaty happened, and now we have to ratify it in order to make it enter into force. In Nice, 50 countries have come with the ratification of this treaty, France being one of them. We need 60 to make the treaty enter into force, and we were very happy to make it possible that in Nice, 15 more countries announced that they would ratify very soon, making it possible to, for the next UN General Assembly to celebrate the first 60 ratifications of the 𝐵𝒂𝒏𝒔 Treaty. We do hope that the Philippines will be among the first to ratify. You are not there yet for many institutional questions, Senate priorities and your own elections, but we are confident that the Philippines, in your tradition of being strong advocate of international law of the sea, will join the group of the first ratifiers of this 𝐵𝒂𝒏𝒔 Treaty, which increases the protection of our high seas. There is also an important step that was taken in Nice during this conference. It's the wake-up call for a plastic treaty. And you were one of the, I think, 94 or I don't know, I don't remember exactly the number of, impressive number of states who participated to this wake-up call in Nice to kind of call up for calling for new negotiation for a treaty that could prevent and even ban plastic pollution. And you are one of the strongest voice on this aspect, being particularly, unfortunately, concerned by the high level of plastic pollution here in your coastal seas. So Nice was definitely an important momentum, an important moment for the international community, and we are very happy to have also here in Manila, together, France and the Philippines contributed to this effort of mobilization for the oceans. That's why I wanted to start with this Blue Nations initiative, but it wouldn't be fair to the wide range of activities that together we have in our bilateral relationship if I didn't expand a little bit my talk today to present and introduce to you the main pillars of our bilateral cooperation today. Once again, the fact that we are two maritime nations, blue nations, is really instrumental in the way we design our cooperation. But there is more. And let me present maybe the two pillars that I usually use to dig into more specific details of our cooperation. Sovereignty and people. The two main aspects, if I had to be very short, the two main aspects of our bilateral relationship is partnership for sovereignty, being more sovereign, and partnership to enhance our people-to-people exchanges. Let's start with this pillar of sovereignty. Of course, we are two sovereign states, it goes without saying, and we are also two states who, from time to time, and quite often, recall that we have a very strong independent foreign policy. I just heard your president recalling that statement during your Independence Day in the palace, that the Philippines has an independent foreign policy. And maybe you know, France is also a strong independent foreign policy maker. It goes with our history, with the first president of the Fifth Republic, General Charles de Gaulle, who made it very clear that France would always stand very independent. And that means that to have this, to be as independent as we claim that we are, we need to work also on our sovereignty and to ensure that on many aspects we can be more self-reliant and gain autonomous strategy, which is also something that we do together in the case of France with my dear European colleagues to gain more autonomy and strategic autonomy. Let me maybe take 3 examples of what it means into cooperation and daily cooperation for both our countries. I take 3 examples: defense and security, energy, and development of infrastructures. Defense and security goes maybe without saying. It's kind of obvious that when you want to be more sovereign and to be more independent, you have to rely on defense and security yourself, which means that defense and security is a strong priority of our bilateral cooperation, at least since the two presidents decided to kind of level up, scale up our partnership on a more strategic level. For the first time in our history, a French Minister of Armed Forces came to the Philippines December 23, Sébastien Lecornu signed with your Secretary Teodoro a letter of intent, paving the way for this reinforcement, this strengthening of our bilateral relationship in the field of defense and security. Since then, you might have experienced, I hope that indeed you have seen much more frequently French armed forces coming to the Philippines for port calls, for example, or for Air Force stopover. The most important one, and I was very proud to welcome this last February, was when the French aircraft carrier, Charles de Gaulle, by the way, was in the Philippines for the first time in calling to port in Subic Bay. It gives huge opportunities for both our armed forces to get to know better one another, to interact, to train, and to even exercise together. So it was a really important milestone to have this aircraft carrier for the first time in the Philippines. We had also on our agenda, since this letter of intent, the possibility to negotiate a visiting forces agreement that the Philippines has already done with other states, not yet with any European states, and I'm very happy that France could be, if the negotiations go well, the next and the first European country to have a visiting forces agreement with the Philippines. Actually, the first round of negotiation just took place this week in Paris. It went very well. Of course, it's a negotiation process for the diplomats of you who know what it requires. It can take time, so let's see what happens. But the first round of negotiation was very promising and successful. So let's see if during the time of my mandate here we can achieve maybe this negotiation and signature of visiting forces agreement. So definitely, defense and security is one strong aspect of our bilateral relationship today. I was mentioning another one, energy. Does it have anything to do with sovereignty? Well, yes, because when you rely too much on others for your power supply, it puts you immediately in a more vulnerable situation. And we experienced that, I have to say, back in Europe after the war was launched in Ukraine, the brutal illegal war from Russia towards Ukraine. We experienced, as a consequence, the effect on our dependence towards gas, for example, from this country. So at some point, geopolitical is, of course, always key in terms of energy and power supplies. So it was a wake-up call also for Europe to be reminded that we need to be more self-reliant. And in the case of the Philippines, I have to, when I look at your energy mix, you also rely a lot on importations for your energy and your power supply. Well, that's a fact. It's also important to work on other possibilities to maybe become more and more independent, less dependent on importations, and of course, more open to green energy also. And that's why both our presidents, once again, wanted to put energy security high also on the political agenda, and that's the reason why we are doing a lot together with our French companies involved in the country to help you transition towards a more green, renewable energy, and using also the possibility one day to rely on nuclear civil energy. I don't know if you know, but that's one of our specificity, originality in our energy mix in France. We rely about 70% of our energy mix relies on nuclear civil energy. We have done, and Charles de Gaulle, once again, the same one, they decided to go for that 70 years ago, and we have faced no incident so far. So we have kind of an expertise to share on the possibility for your country, like we do with other countries all over the world, to help you transition towards this possibility of energy, and to secure your energy mix and to secure your sovereignty. Third example, maybe, when we claim, you and France also, and other countries, to be more independent, more autonomous, it means also that we have a path for development. And our cooperation is also a lot about economic cooperation, economic development. And one aspect, I could mention a lot, but I won't have time. One aspect is infrastructures, connectivity, and public transportation. We have a lot of French companies already involved in the country, and that could definitely be more involved in the future to take a share in the loads of investment that you want to achieve in terms of development of railways, for example. That's something that is very important. Connectivity is, of course, key for our bilateral cooperation also. And let me recall that we were very proud on the path of this reinforcement of our bilateral relationship to have a new direct flight flying from Manila to Paris, Paris to Manila. Air France came back in the country last December, opened again this direct flight, and this is the only direct route connecting the Philippines to Europe, by the way. So Paris has become the natural gateway to Europe if you want to connect more quickly to Europe. This is key, I have to say, and this might just sound a little bit like an anecdote, but no, I have talked with many French companies, many investors. The fact that we have kind of shortened the distance, in a way, between our two countries is really a boost towards economic development, possible investments, new tourists, new student exchanges. So let me maybe precisely go to this second aspect of our second pillar, I would say, of our bilateral relationship, bilateral cooperation, people I was mentioning. Of course, as I was just saying, one political priority is our sovereignty, but behind a nation, of course, there are peoples. And if we want to increase our bilateral relationship, to strengthen our cooperation, we need to rely on our people-to-people exchanges, and we need to get to know each other even better and better. I'm always overwhelmed by the fact that I meet so many Filipino, be it here in the Philippines, of course, but also back in France, and I know that there is, I wouldn't say a French love story, but why not? Let's start to use this image during between our people, and we have to invest on this human factor of our cooperation. Let me take again 3 examples of what we try to achieve in investing more in our people-to-people exchanges, and particularly in the youth of your country. Because it's true that there is at least one thing that differentiates us, both France and the Philippines. We are an old, aging country. You are a young, dynamic, promising country for the future. 25 years old is your average age, if I'm correct. Well, we are more like opposite numbers. 42 years old is our average age in France. And of course, it means that we don't have at all the same path in the future. And your youth and your numbers, 120 million people in your country, we want to benefit from you and from this youth to increase our relationship. So basically, we want to invest in the youth, and the youth is often, and I'm so happy to see many young faces also here today. Thank you for that. We can do a lot together. We can do so. I was mentioning 3 examples to to show what we are trying to do on that aspect to increase our bilateral relation through people-to-people exchanges. Higher education and student exchanges is, of course, one aspect. Culture and human rights. Student exchanges, higher education is a priority for the French diplomacy, like many of my like-minded partners, of course. We are open to have more students coming from all over the world in studying in France. And definitely, I had a chance myself to study in another country. It was a European country at the time, in the Netherlands. Everyone that has had this experience of studying abroad knows how important it is to then foster our bilateral relation. We get to understand and to know better the world, basically, and the other country by having spent time in that country. So student exchanges is really key. I was very happy 2 days ago, actually. This Wednesday was France-Philippines Alumni Day, and I welcomed at the French residence many young and less young students that had spent time in my country, and it's impressive the force of these students' exchanges. You're basically, what I was telling them, you are much more than me, ambassadors of the France-Philippines bilateral relationship, having had this experience and becoming an alumnus or an alumna of my country. My President Macron, has put a clear objective on this to every embassy in the world. He wanted to achieve 500,000 student exchanges by 2027. We have to take our share here in the Philippines. I recalled the numbers for last year, 23-24, the school year. We had almost 650 students, Filipino students, studying in France. We can do more. That's already a lot compared to what we come from in our bilateral relationship, but compared to your potential, we can do more. And by the way, it's not necessary anymore to speak French to study in France, even though I highly recommend every student to try to take some lessons in our French Alliance Française in Manila or in Cebu, and to speak a little bit of French. But now, I mean, it's not necessary to speak French anymore to go and study in France. So that's something we want to do more, to focus, and by the way, vice versa. And I've seen already a lot of French students choosing the Philippines to come here and study. Students from Sciences Po, for example, now can choose easily to come here and study in UP or in Ateneo, and I'm really delighted that the path is opening in both sides and vice versa. Second aspect, culture. Of course, in the French diplomacy, culture is quite always high on the agenda as a tool to strengthen our people-to-people exchanges. And here it's really the place in the Philippines where it's easy to do so, because you are also very much into culture and to your national culture. Last Saturday, I don't know if some of you have had a chance to participate to Fête de la Musique, but we had one of the most exceptional Fête de la Musique all over Asia Pacific. I've been told that the numbers that we reached were putting the Philippines at the highest level of success of Fête de la Musique. What is Fête de la Musique about? June 21 is International Day of Music, and a former French Minister of Culture decided that in France, every June 21, music would be everywhere, every square, every corner, in Paris, in every city, in every village. Anyone, professional or not, could just go in the street and start playing the music or singing or whatever. And it's become also a tool of diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, and we try to organize Fête de la Musique in every country where we can. And in the Philippines, I remember when I arrived 2 years ago, I met so many people requesting and asking, when will you again organize Fête de la Musique? So it's an annual rendezvous, but this year It's been particularly spectacular. It's not finished, by the way, because we extend as much as possible to make the party continue. But last Saturday, the main stage was in Ayala Triangle Gardens, just next to the embassy. It was spectacular. More than 14,000 people, spectators, to attend this main stage. And during the whole period of the Fête de la Musique, it's 100 stages all over the Philippines, but because it's not only in Manila, but also in other places. 31 cities have participated to the Fête de la Musique. On stage, Filipino artists, definitely great artists, French artists, and also we open up also to other artists. Japanese artists was there too, and it's a beautiful way of sharing together our love for music, for singing. We cannot compete to any Filipino here with singing for sure, but at least we love the music. And this is an example of what we try to achieve in our cultural diplomacy and to foster, once again, our people-to-people exchanges. And I think it works. Last example, and I come to an end, sorry, because I'm already too long. I was mentioning human rights. Yes, in our people-to-people exchanges, we put always human rights, and particularly women's rights and gender equality, high on our agenda. People shall be free. Freedom and human rights is a must. And we do share that also together in our advocacy, France and the Philippines, in the UN, for example, and you are definitely very committed in the UN and in multilateral fora. Human rights is a given, not a given precisely, a must, and because it's not a given, we need to invest more and more and more. And so human rights is always very high on our diplomatic agenda. Also here in the Philippines, I was very happy together with my German colleague present here, thank you, Andreas, we decided to organize a French-German gathering on human rights. It's a great opportunity to offer a safe space, safe room to discuss those issues which are key, but sometimes controversial, not easy, but let's talk at least about them. It's not always easy in our own countries, it's not easy in the Philippines, but let's talk about that. And that, I think, it contributes to our to strengthening our people-to-people exchanges, our get to know one another. I was mentioning women's rights, of course, and you know, this week we celebrate on June 24 the International Day of Women in Diplomacy, and of course it's a blessing also to be posted in the Philippines because you are so well advanced compared to even to us in terms of women empowerment, in terms of gender equality. You've had actually at least two presidents of the Republic that were women. We've had none, so I have to learn a lot from you and how you achieve that. At the same time, in our discussion, there were other issues that maybe we could also contribute to make the discussion evolve a little bit, like sexual and reproductive rights, which is very important also on our diplomatic agenda. And here in the Philippines, that could be more difficult issues. I know very well the question of the right to choose, for example, is always an issue, but let's talk about it. And that's part of our people-to-people exchanges, to be able to discuss about it. And I'm very proud each time I organize these gatherings together with my German colleague, sorry, not yet, to see that we can talk about the topics. And this is, diplomacy is about this capacity to talk and at some point to get to know each other and to compromise if we have to. So that's it. I will come to an end because I'm really looking forward also to hearing from you and our discussion. I know I still have to learn a lot from your country, from your priorities, from the way you do things. I hope I'm learning. I continue to learn more and more. It's already been 2 years since I've arrived in the Philippines, and with this mandate of strengthening our bilateral cooperation, strengthening our political and strategic dialogue. I hope we are on the good path, but it's something that we cannot achieve alone, of course, and I'm very happy to count on my best friends in DFA, and particularly also my colleague who is the ambassador to the Philippines in France, and the next one is just in front of me. I'm so happy that we can do that and achieve the strengthening of our bilateral cooperation together. Thank you so much for listening to me, and happy to continue the discussions.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that insightful discussion on the relations of the Philippines and France. At this point, we will now open the floor for comments and questions relating to Philippines and France relations. Please kindly the center and introduce yourself by stating your name and your affiliation before asking your question. Also, to accommodate a good number of questions, we request those who would like to participate in the Q&A to raise only one question. With that, the floor is now open. Anyone, please? Yes, sir. Please approach the mic.
Good morning, Your Excellency, and thank you very much for your presentation. I'm Alan De Leon from the Foreign Service Institute. I would like to ask, ma'am, and again, thank you very much again for also emphasizing on the blue economy, the sustainable blue economy. Because actually in recent years, we have seen really a boost when it comes to financing nature, biodiversity, and again, our marine resources globally. Actually, we have actually increased it to about 103 billion globally every year. But as we know, the financing gap still remains. So I would like to ask, ma'am, how is France contributing to addressing this financing gap, especially for marine protection and marine conservation? And how do you see, ma'am, the Philippines and France actually contributing also together, particularly in empowering our sectors, our blue economy sectors, the people behind the blue economy? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your 2 questions, actually, no? But I think it will be accepted, right? Thank you so much. Indeed, we are trying to mobilize all our diplomatic tools I was mentioning earlier in terms of advocacy, but of course also our development and cooperation tools. We have here in the Philippines, it's not always the case in every country, we have our Bank of Development, AFD, Agence Française de Développement, who is present in the country, and that will contribute at some point to help us mobilizing. You were asking about financing. Of course, it helps mobilizing funds. Let me take a few examples. We precisely signed, I signed very lately with the Secretary of Finance a loan from the French government, through AFD, to the Filipino government on climate policy. 200 million euros, I guess, were part of this project. And we are already working on replicating the same kind of tool dedicated to oceans and blue economy. So that's a starting discussion, but that could also help the Filipino government rely on new funding. But and I could name other examples of fundings that we have used to foster the blue economy and the Blue Nation initiative. But it's not only about finance, I have to say. It's something that we often assess. You often need, and there is often a need for expertise. And that's why we are very happy to rely on a French expert posted in the Marina, the Marine Industry Authority, that helps also the Philippine Marina to improve in terms of efficiency of maritime security. This is for example, that leads, and it's directly connected to blue economy, because if you waste, if there are too many delays, for example, in terms of transportation of goods from an island to another, that will have an impact, and negative impact on your blue economy. Why are there delays? Why are there often, unfortunately, incidents? Because security is not enough. And our French experts in the Marina contribute to help also for this security plan and the modernization plan of the Marina. Another example with the Coast Guards, for example, we have a strong cooperation with the Philippines Coast Guards, which are really key in terms of maritime security, but also blue economy and also protection of marine biodiversity. Maybe you followed the news that the French government would support financially the acquisition by the Coast Guards of 40 vessels that would contribute also to increase the capacity of the Coast Guards and to be able to sustain more their competencies in terms of ensuring maritime security. So those are examples of, yes, financing is an asset and is important for your country, but you have to mobilize at the same time expertise and advocacy, and then you have the full package that helps improve the situation. My view on it.
Ambassador, for that clarification. Sir, may I ask you to ask your question at the mic stand in the back?
Thank you so much. It works. Well, thank you so much for your presentation. It was an ocean, your presentation, and very impressive. You didn't look on your papers, yeah? So congratulations, and thank you so much. It was really impressive.
I hope no one drowned into my ocean.
I did almost.
Oh,
well,
you
covered so many issues, not only water, but also, and it is very important for us, human rights. You talked about it, and France is a reference for human rights. We appreciate the advocacy of Philippines and France's continuous advocacy for the respect of human rights. But you understand that many countries, or some countries, especially in our region, do not respect correctly these human rights, and they are partners of France as well as Philippines. So what would be measure to make this advocacy more effective in order to push these countries to respect human rights? You understand, I'm talking about especially the case of Palestine and Israel. Both of them are partners with both countries. So what would be concrete measures to go beyond only advocacy, to make these partners respecting human rights? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your question. Ma'am, may I ask?
How much time do you have? Because if you've almost drawn into my presentation on oceans, on this issue, we could take decades to answer. This is, of course, very difficult because, of course, you know much more than me, my dear colleague ambassador, the answer to that question. There is no easy answer because there is no magical button, no magical stick to, it's not, of course, because we use the advocacy tool that it is immediately efficient. But often what we connect with advocacy in terms of human rights, you know very well, it's international law. And the fact that there are rules, and the rule of law is always something that goes together with human rights. And I agree, there is one very important thing, I agree, you did not mention, but I know maybe you had that in mind, the question of double standards. We have to be very careful on that, because indeed, international law and human rights are universal, that's France stand on those issues always. It means that in every comparable situation, we have to apply the same rules, and that's what we are doing. You maybe noticed that President Macron was keynote speaker at the Shangri-La Dialogue first European head of state to be invited for a keynote speech in Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, end of May. And that was a key part of his speech to recall that there cannot be any double standards. There are a lot of situations all over the world where human rights are not respected. And from time to time, I'm not ashamed to say that even in our own countries, we have human rights issues. I would take just one example to show you that I don't apply double standards to my country. The situation of overpopulation in jails, for example, in my country is a really, really concern in terms of human rights. So we try to be fair in our advocacies and to try to not apply any double standards and to always rely on what international law tells us, and then to let the UN system, the multilateral system, from time to time the international justice system take its part. It's not always diplomacy, it's also accountability and justice.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We can take 2 more questions. Maybe ask Sir, please, to approach the mic stand.
Good morning, Madam Ambassador. I am Dr. Joel Melesio Cabal, University President of the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng San Pablo, local university in San Pablo City, Laguna. Thank you for your excellent presentation, Madam Ambassador. My question, as to what extent France and the Philippines as alliances partnered for the protection of the West Philippine Sea?
Thank you so much for this key question. Definitely we are allies on this issue, once again, because we rely on international law, and international law of the sea is very, very clear. Thanks to the Philippines, it's even clearer since the 2016 arbitral award. UNCLOS states very clear stand on what can be done in terms of territorial integrity at sea. And each time there is an incident where in the South China Sea, and not talking about territorial dispute, but when there is an incident when the sovereignty of the Philippines has been breached, we always stand with the Philippines. And unfortunately, there are important number of statements where you can find my country, France, alike with other European member states and like-minded states, recalling that UNCLOS should prevail, international law of the sea should prevail, and that's very clear. So we are definitely allies, Philippines and France, as regards international law of the sea, particularly in the case of the South China Sea.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. May we call on Undersecretary De Vega to ask the final question for today.
Thank you, Madam. I'm certainly looking forward to assuming in France in the next few months. Just waiting for the medical clearance. We'll discuss it later. We'll work together in the defense cooperation, which is a good response also to your question. And thank you. And on BB&J and other issues. I want just a few comments before I ask my question. The first question was raised by somebody named, talking about people-to-people contacts and cultural connections. His name was Alain de Leon, too close to a name of a French actor. So again, it shows our cultural affinities. And then to our Palestinian colleague, I did not drown in your ocean. I want to keep swimming. And now there is a Air France direct flight. You mentioned the meeting in Nice. Please, who's going to be a tourist in France, don't just go to northern France. Go to southern France. More similar to Philippines, and Nice is possibly the best sea view in Europe. Yeah. Not possibly, definitely. A question is, in my capacity as migration head in the foreign ministry, we are seeing in Europe, and needless to say in the United States, a rejection, a certain dislike for the presence of too many foreigners in their countries. Now, France is not deporting people, But in Europe, we are seeing people even criticizing tourists. And France is, I think, always number one in receiving tourists in the world. For why not? Of course. Is there a lot of sectors already, do we see it in France, where unfortunately, maybe politicians, we know about the Le Pens, for example, but certainly among the French society where there is a problem, perhaps because of too many people of not Christian, maybe, I think you know what I mean, or perhaps just too many tourists disturbing France. I hope we don't see it. Too bad, there is already an Air France direct flight. Please, especially where Philippines is concerned, thank you for hosting so many Filipino migrants among non-Francophone countries in Asia. We are a lot. We are a lot, especially, of course, India has more, but India has 1 billion people, so obviously there will be more people of them in France, but Filipinos, a lot in France. So, unfortunately, do we see it? You need people. Your median age, I was surprised, 42. I thought it's in the 30s. Now it keeps going up. Madame, on y va à Paris? Oui?
Thank you so much, Yusek, and soon colleague will be partnering so much, and I see you are already the perfect ambassador to France, advocating in favor of visiting Nice and other parts of my country. So, and please do so. It's a very important question. I think that we have to be lucid on the trends we all experience in Europe, at least, or other countries, of yes, certain political parties that are questioning migrations. And we have to deal with it. It's an issue for our politicians. It's difficult, and it needs and requires a lot of explanations, and because we face actually two different and even not coordinated aspects of the question at the same time. As I was saying, in my country, aging country like other countries in Europe, we are lacking workforce in many fields. And we won't survive if we don't rely on migrant workers accepting also to come to our countries. And there are a lot of different fields, restoration, hospitality, care, etc., where we will continue relying on migrant workers, and it's beautiful. At the same time, there are indeed, there is a perception of not my country as government, but some political forces that there are too migrants. We are not at all to the stage where we can see in other parts of the world, and with, as you were saying, no deportations of that kind of aspect, but we have to combine those two movements. What I can say, and I was discussing last week, we had a delegation from France, important person in the Ministry of Justice of France coming here, and she was telling me she was a former judge in the south of France, in Aix-en-Provence, and you know that, or maybe you don't know, but the two regions where you can find a lot of Filipinos in France are Paris, of course, but also this part of southeast in France, Nice, Aix-en-Provence, a lot of Filipino, and she was saying, as a judge, when she was experiencing, of course, daily problems with migrants in the city, never with Filipino, never. So don't worry at all. You'll always be more than welcome in my country, because we have that stand in common. We care for each other, I think, and there has never been any problem for Filipino migrant workers in my country. So please continue looking at my country with that regard, and help us also deal with our own issues in France, but also elsewhere in Europe, dealing with this question of migration, which is indeed politically not easy. It starts to be a discussion between two. French ambassador, Filipino ambassador.
Thank you very much. Philippines, sometimes we're ahead then first world countries, including women's rights, you mentioned, 2 lady presidents already. You never know. I don't want to be controversial. You never know about 2028. Maybe France will one day have a lady president as well. Maybe her name will be Marie Fontanelle-Lassalle. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your active participation. At this point, I would like to invite Her Excellency to give her concluding statements for this lecture.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. It was a very, very fruitful exercise to me to reflect on the past 2 years. Time flies in your country, especially because there is so much to do. You've seen my mandate is quite a heavy one. I can rely, of course, on a great team at the French embassy, and part of it is here today. It's always a collective exercise. It's not just one ambassador, even though a couple of ambassadors. It's also a great collective effort to contribute to this mandate to strengthen our bilateral relationship. It's a collective effort also together with my European Union member states, France, and here we are a great family also. So when you think France, Philippines, you always have also to think about Europe and European Union, Philippines. We are all here to do more. We want to do more, and I hope that the presentation today maybe contributed also to make that even more clear. And let's continue the discussion. I hope on any other occasions you'll be more than welcome to show up in the French embassy, participate in our events, participate in our National Day maybe coming soon, because you know it's Bastille Day. And just a little hint, it will be a Bastille Day on the theme of oceans. Thank you so much for listening to me, and maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, everyone, for an engaging discussion as well. We hope that today's lecture and conversations has sparked new insights and learnings for everyone. At this point, we would like to express our sincerest appreciation for Her Excellency for her presence and her invaluable insights on our country's relations. Now, may I please invite Foreign Service Institute's Director General, Francisco Noel R. Fernandez III, to award a simple token of appreciation, one of FSI's publications, Future Perfect, and a certificate of appreciation. Now we may also invite the heads of the DFA offices and heads of diplomatic posts for a photo opportunity with the ambassador. Once again, thank you, Ambassador Marie Fontanelle, for your presence today. We also appreciate our gracious audience for your active participation, and to the organizing team for their dedication to making this event a success. Before we conclude, 2 quick announcements. First, FSI is committed to continuous improvement. We value your feedback, so please take a moment to complete the short evaluation survey. Please simply scan the QR code at the back of the program brochure to share your thoughts on today's sessions and to complete our client satisfaction survey. To our dear guests, we look forward to having you again at the next ALS series. For updates, please follow FSI's social media pages. The program has officially ended. Please join us for refreshments at the Executive Lounge. Thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of your day.